Hello friends, welcome back to Product and Brand Management, and we are going ahead with design thinking. One of the most composite, one of the most encompassing kind of subjects, wherein we have talked about the definitional frame, we have tried to understand how design thinking works, how we should be thinking in terms of a design thinker, how integrative it is in terms of its nature. We talked about Veena Vadini School, an example wherein Mr. Virangat Sharma instigated a charm towards education amongst young children who were actually not so interested. And there are several other kinds of experiments which people have done, successful experiments which got converted into a business. And not only that, those experiments, they instigated a chain reaction through and through, not only in their own value chain but across several value chains, and that is what design thinking is all about. I will be taking you further as far as the whole design thinking gamut goes, and then I would be taking you towards innovation, wherein we would be having several examples and context of innovation, and then we would be moving on towards new product development, and last we would be talking about the relationship of reflexivity, being reflexive, co-creation, innovation, new product development, design thinking, and almost all the elements to understand how this works. So, let me carry the discussion forward. After understanding the definitional framework, let us see how shifts in social and economic areas you know have affected the role of design and design thinking in business actually. So, you see, design thinking also gets influenced by so many things, and why not? It actually is responsible for creating a replicable process which may divert into several other processes. So, one of the most important things which we have passed through for past 3-4 decades, and we are going ahead in that direction, is globalization. It's whole lot of an integrated world now. See, globalization has been changing and rechanging forms. Earlier, globalization had an internationalization perspective. Multinationals and internationals, these kind of terms, they came in. Today you don't know which company has a production setup where, and which is their prime market, and from where the customer is sourcing a particular kind of a product through online portal, and then who is supplying you when you are buying through Amazon and through these kind of avenues. So, the point is that globalization has taken a different kind of a form altogether. Transportation has changed. You see, we have quick transport, we have air systems, our ships have become more efficient, we have redevised routes, we have worked upon the policy structures so as to reach to places quickly and so on. And then another thing which is coming up is interconnectedness of one spot to the other. They say that there is a rail transport facility for carrying goods from China to Europe, and those kind of systems are developing, and several intermediary canals or transit systems are being worked about, and so on. So, transportation has become very efficient in due course of time, and that is responsible for carrying the goods and giving a particular kind of an impetus to globalization. Why am I mentioning these kind of things is because once you look at the perspective of transportation, you would realize that if you focus on this, there are several other elements which can be facilitated because of this. So, this can have a central value. Then you see, dependence, dynamics of oil production, and alternate energy and raw material supplies, different kinds of new evolving raw materials, usage of material science to develop different kinds of composites or matter to be used in different forms, and so on. Technology has enabled us so much. So, if a country is focusing upon a different kind of a material development, other can use it for manufacturing things, and so on. You see, most of all, human resource, education, and shift of acumen and talent has also been giving a very different kind of a shape, or is influencing the shape of globalization. There was a time when there were very specific courses available in India in terms of software, AI, databases, and several other kinds of scientific branches, and even in arts or management. But today, there is no country where you would not find a composition of courses which are universally available almost anywhere else also, depending upon what kind of an equity a particular institution holds amongst the prospective students. So that is the only thing, a charm which a student thinks of. Otherwise, the availability of the courses, the content is quite universal. Plus, sitting at home in India, several software programmers and designers, they work for several companies abroad. So there is a different kind of a structure which human resource management has taken all through. You are unable to judge that this particular person is being hired for an international operation, and where would he be placed actually. So that gives a different kind of an impetus, and the subsequent element which is associated with human resource management development is institutional development. Today, institutions have come a far way in terms of redesigning their course structures, enabling the students. Earlier, there were specific branches related to computer related skills. Today, almost every branch of science, engineering and management, you have that composition wherein fundamental skills to higher skills are available for any sort of a student to learn and then use it in the field they want to. So, you see, these are the examples of how globalization is getting restructured in due course of time. Web 4.0, we all know that. Triple bottom line of people, profit, planet is an important thing which has taken prominence in due course of time. Earlier, there were several other considerations which were dominant, but today, especially established organizations, and thanks to the norms which have been negotiated and discussed between the countries and the policy makers all through, all these developments which have taken place, plus the sensitivity of consumers, sensitivity of the manufacturers, and realization by everyone that the value of this Mother Earth is the most important for all of us to survive in due course of time. So every organization working in soft business or manufacturing business or infrastructure based business, they have started thinking in terms of sustainability more, planet more as compared to anything else. And once we have shifted our concentration from only producing goods and earning profits towards sustainability, so we have revitalized and rejuvenated all the procedures. So that is what is the impact of this particular element of triple bottom line. Again, COVID-19 has taught us many things. Health is most important, health care is most important. There is a prime importance of people who actually work for the health care of people. So you see, today the world has started focusing on. Earlier, probably we were sure of that we will find treatment for almost everything which we are going through. There are several medicines, and definitely thanks to those people who have been working in the research and development area of medical sciences, people who are serving people as doctors and healthcare professionals. But we were quite sure that as and when the disease would come, we will keep on fighting with that, and we kept on fighting with that. We produced medicines and treatments and so on. But COVID-19 suggested that something may happen suddenly. So we should not be getting prepared for what is coming our way. We should be preparing ourselves for anything, and this holds the prime importance. Otherwise, world would come to an abrupt stop. So whole lot of predictability models, whole lot of forecasting models, they have started rethinking. And they are putting sustainability and health measures at the core, and whole lot of a structure is being reworked upon. It is not apparent so much as of now when I am talking to you in November 2021, but Probably after 2 or 3 years from now, we would realize that everyone has been recentered. When you use Google Maps to follow a pathway, so it says recenter yourself. So probably everything would have been recentered by that time. Innovation drives business, and design enables innovation, and design thinking enables almost all the processes. Then again, there is an element of that, we are seeking a meaning in an experience economy, that things are changing radically. So that is also, one of the important elements when we talk of something in terms of experience economy. I would not be elaborating all the terms being used. These are common terms. You may refer to the reference given with these slides. Otherwise, you can just Google experience economy, and there are several beautiful examples there. So from mass media advertising to brands as stories and relationships, we have come a long way in terms of communication as well. From manufacturing centric to consumer centric, again I have just mentioned that, but with a sensibility towards sustainability and human health and human life. Today, it is not the only concern that what is the average human age. The major concern is now that what is the average age of a healthy human, how far we can keep up the health levels of human beings. And then definitely people have started talking and focusing upon the happiness of human beings. So that is also an important kind of a development which is going on, and many countries, many societies, they have started following that. Remember this, once you have a particular kind of a perspective, all the other things would start falling in line with that. So the integration of customer touch points and several other elements. There are 4 powers of design, and you see, as I have been telling you, all these are evolving structures. You can add to this, you can subtract from this, but largely thinkers have categorized, as far as design goes, 4 elements. Design as differentiator, a source of competitive advantage on the market through brand equity, customer loyalty, price premium, or customer orientation. And remember, when I am talking of design, it is not just the product's design, it is design of almost everything, the processes, the value chains. And we have talked about this thing in design thinking, orientation. So when I refer to design, just go back to the definition of design thinking and then take it from there. Design as integrator, a resource that improves new product development, processes, time to market, building consensus in teams, using visualization skills. Design as a process that favors a modular and platform architecture of product lines, user oriented innovation models, fuzzy front end. Now this is a term which is commonly used now, but just to give you a glimpse of it, that for example you realize that there is an opportunity or there is a need, both ways. We started our discussion on product with reference to needs. For example, you find a differently abled person. So you find a need to serve that person, that is also an opportunity for you to serve that person, both ways. And once that is observed, that is focused upon, then an idea emanates, or several ideas they come to fore, and then those ideas or one of those ideas is taken to formal development. Now this time frame is usually referred to as fuzzy front end kind of a thing. Basically it is defined that way, so you can read literature on that, and most of all you can Google on that. So now the other element which is very important with reference to design is that it can be seen as a transformer, a resource for creating new business opportunities. Virangat Sharma is one of those, and there are several. I talked about Dean Kamen, one of the most renowned innovators of our contemporary times. I talked about Earth, the sequel, wherein the author has written about commercially viable efforts being made by innovators, wherein an organization has developed an ink for printing solar cells, for example. So you see, that is where transformation perspective related to design comes in, and that is where new business opportunities they come in. And as they say that renewable energy is going to be one of the biggest business spheres in times to come, much bigger than many other business spheres or areas. And when you talk of new business opportunities, that is for related to improving the company's ability to cope with change, and it may also be termed with reference to an expertise to better interpret the company and the marketplace in coherence with each other. How capable we are, what is the competence we have, and then how we can utilize that competence for times to come. If we are having a science based human resource, where that scientific acumen can be utilized, as simple as that. So design as good business in itself with a strategic orientation. And you would remember that in last session I talked about design thinking as a strategy by itself. You see, when we talk of design as a good business, we may refer to it as a source of increased sales and better margins, more brand value, greater market share, better return on investment, and design as a resource for society at large, inclusive design, sustainable designs, and so on. And I have been referring to IKEA Furnitures, or let us say Lego Toys, or let us say LIC or ICICI Bank or SBI Bank, and several organizations in this regard. You can choose to think of any of those at this particular moment, or whichever you like. Narayan Hridayalaya we talked about, and Arvind Eye Care, I referred to, and so on. Then there are principles of design thinking. Now let us focus upon, after pillars, let us focus upon the fundamental principles, and please keep reiterating the examples I have taken in the definitional framework of design thinking. See, first principle is that develop empathy for the customer, get associated for the customer, or with the customer, should I say. And then again, if you talk of Narayan Hridayalaya, Arvind Eye Care, if you talk of any organization for that matter, someone which is producing toothpaste. So without having an empathetic perspective towards the consumer, you won't be able to develop the product which would be beneficial for the consumer. Veena Vadini School, Mr. Virangad Sharma was having has always been having an empathy towards the students. That is why he generated the procedures which are beneficial for the students, for their development, along with getting their interest towards education. So that is where empathetic perspective, several hospital chains are there apart from Narayan Hridayalaya also who have been doing that. So there are, and it is not specific to any service areas. If you will talk to product managers, if you will visit the plants, if you will talk to the people on the floor, you would realize that while working on their products, developing their products, they are all into the perspective as if they are the consumers themselves, they are the customers themselves. They are so deeply associated with the subject. So that is what we have to look upon when we talk of empathy being a reason of the design thinking. Engage unique design processes. When you say unique design processes, it is not just that competition should not be able to follow that. The uniqueness of the processes is associated with that how well you would be able to materialize that design thinking, that perspective. How cost efficient would it be? How technologically efficient would it be? Connect with corporate culture. Of course, the cultural build-up of an organization is one of the most important elements. And here my favorite examples are Khadi Gram Udyog in India, Gandhi Ashram, which is a very popular organization, Patanjali on the other side, and several others, just to give a cultural markup to, they have built up a different kind of a culture within their organizations as such. LIC definitely is one of those, and then Levers and several other organizations are there. Hindustan Lever is there, Nestle is there. Set design strategy and policy. And strategy and policy I have elaborated quite a bit in terms of the time, path, and so on. Align business strategy and design strategy. So, product, design perspective, pathways, revenue model, profitability, everything all together. Design for innovation and transformation, design for relevance at each touch point, focus on the customer experience, empower creativity. This is one of the most important elements. You have to build up a culture wherein your team actually becomes creative by nature. They have an eye on almost everything around you. They are, they come all out with whatever best can be done. Be a design leader. And you see, then there are several categories by which you can evaluate the performance of design: purchase influence, enablement of strategy and new markets, how design is contributing there, and in terms of product and service innovation, reputation, awareness and brand value. Obviously, it is visible. Nike, just go to their website. Time to market and process improvement, customer satisfaction. This is one of the biggest markups. If customer is satisfied and loyal, you don't require any other markup to that level. I am not saying that you have to undermine those markups. And then return on investment, intellectual property, developing communities of customers, usability, sustainability. And sustainability again is very important. How sustainable the design in itself is, and what is the contribution of design in sustainability at large, both ways. Sustainability is an all-encompassing term. Let's look at few examples. These are one of my favorites, and there can be several others. You can think about those, you can surf the websites. Decathlon, designing value into the process. This is an award-winning Decathlon product, and it is called Quechua 2 seconds tent, which radically reduces the time needed to erect a tent. And you see, what is the thought process around? And if you will look at this tent, this product, you would realize that it has enabled the tourism industry. It has enabled several other things. For example, it can be of an important use to mountaineers, to soldiers. Several types of usage are there. You see, 2 seconds tent. The tent can literally be thrown into the air and will open on its own before it reaches the ground. The idea was to pre-assemble the tent's various elements: room, double roof, hoops, to simplify the camper's life as much as possible, anyone's life for that matter. And it's very useful if someone is not allowed to enter inside the home. So they must carry a tent, and they can go anywhere and just blow the tent, and they have at least a place to stay in the night. It's on the lighter side. Once the tent is up, the camper has only to put 6 tent pegs in the ground to secure it. Roomy enough for 2. The 2 seconds tent is reasonably priced at €49, which is not a high price at all, offering everyone the chance to go off and camp even if he or she has never put up a tent. At the same time, it is a real tent with all the technical features. For instance, a coated double roof with waterproof seams and anti-condensation or breathable fabric. Quechua 2 seconds tent has several elements. Value for the client. So, you see, spring hoops allow this tent to be thrown into the air and to open up on its own before it reaches the ground. Value for the process. Better integration of marketing and design upstream in focus groups, and measure of value for the client is related to customer satisfaction in Quechua brand, product used in in a television campaign, and value for the process can be measured through fuzzy front end, new product development process and expertise in design research. And several other elements can be counted upon when we talk about such kind of a product. Value for employee and knowledge management is also there. Value for shareholders and society definitely is there. I would not elaborate too much on all the aspects. I am just pointing out that one single wonderful product through design thinking does wonders. And you see, there can be snippets on such kind of aspects. One thing which I want to point out here, apart from objective, scope, process, thinking style is what I wish to point out here, and that is abductive thinking. Imagining that what comes after a particular kind of a stage, cumulatively thinking the complete process, looking at the patterns and so on. So, that is again a very important element of how we look at things with a design thinking perspective. Arvind Eye Care, I talked about it earlier with a different kind of a reference. You see, it was founded in 1976 by late Dr. G. Venkataswamy, Dr. V as everyone called him, to explore ways to deliver medical care to inhabitants of poor and developing countries. And Arvind Eye Care has its own in-house manufacturing facility that makes the intraocular lenses and sutures used in cataract operations examples of breakthrough innovation. You see, I will just give you some data. At the hospital, physicians perform more than 250,000 surgeries, 250,000 surgeries per year. Assembly line operating procedures are being used, and you see, for about a third of patients it is free. The remainder paid, the remainder pays, that is, the remainder number of patients they pay on a sliding scale which begins at 3,000 rupees. So, you see, very optimal pricing, much suited to wherein you can say that we are providing health care to people, and we are not practically charging, but still they are operating and they are recovering their costs. So, that is the magic of design thinking, wherein they have augmented their procedures, they are providing world class facilities and surgery and abilities that they have developed in due course of time. The treatment to the patient is world class and so on. So, everything is all encompassing with an objective that they would be reaching to the people with an orientation of serving them and maintaining their costs as well, both ways. So, that is an important element when we talk of design thinking. One last example which may justify the complete discussion which we have had. You see, channeling solar energy for over 4 million people around the world. Launched in July 2015, the D-Lite A1, since rebranded to A2, is bringing solar light to hundreds of millions of people living without access to electricity, and the cost is just $5. Because of A1, millions of families gained extra hours of light to work, study and play, while simultaneously reducing the harmful health effects and slow burn cost of kerosene lamps. Since its launch in 2015, the D-Lite A1 has empowered over 3.3 million lives. Ask a student who doesn't have enough facility in the night time to study, and the number of years that student loses because of that. If you will cumulatively multiply that number with such number of students, you would realize the kind of productive years lost and the kind of productivity lost in future. And then you convert that into an economic contribution and you would realize what I am talking of. So, this simple change can bring in that kind of a productivity and economic contribution to this world, and this is all about design thinking, as simple as that. I will be coming back to you with a discussion on innovation in my next session. Till then, goodbye.